Who is the most dangerous? The enemy you see or the one you don't? Communist, cultist, demonic Dems who openly cry for baby's blood, or the rhinos who conceal the corruption in the colors and the cross? Pedo Joe sold out to any and everybody, but Trump to Israel and the deep state. Charlie outprayed, outthought, and outdebated all comers, clearing clouded college minds, turning points for Christ and freedom, and daring to question October 7th, while chafing at Zionist donors. So they killed him, quick, before his mind changed more, and he then millions. Bodyguard betrayed, cameras confiscated, site scraped, script launched. But their downfall is their disbelief. As Yeshua proved, to crucify is to magnify 1,000 times, and their new temple, like the old, will fall in failure. Rape born, orphan adopted, blessed bastard, ex-soldier, special agent, spy, tyrant targeted, slave state slandered, turned whistleblower warrior, sabotage sharpened, corruption crucibled, redemption repurposed, maker missioned as chaplain, leader, teacher, truth teller to power, now America's intelligence officer. Leading with the last, forging with the first, standing alone together on our tier trail to rescue the Republic and restore America's godliness. I'm Jeff Prather, and this is the Prather Point. Hey, welcome everybody. Happy to be with you. See there, High Cropman on Rumble. Don't see anybody on X. Slower show today. I want to definitely have a dialogue. I really always want to have that, whether it's my chaplaincy or my cast, but I really want to emphasize that today. The turning point, Christic co-option versus Cabal control. We're going to talk about that and how the UNIPARTY has doubled down on all Charlie was against. And I'm proof that besting bloodlines and background is possible, and how we know Charlie's death is a cover-up and why we must Saint Martin our children. That is my new war cry. But before we get to that, I wanted to thank everybody for their kind words about my Substack and tearful intro the other day. Thank you all. I hope you will make your own declarations. Then whatever Trump or Erica does or doesn't do is irrelevant. It is what each of us does next. So Zoltan Nuaza, who is a longtime follower, first on Locals and on Patreon, absolutely the best show from Major Jeffrey Prather, a real man honoring a fallen hero. Thresher, I think a new one, brings me to tears. Thank you. I needed that. I've been giving up on people as well. I pledge to do more and be more like you, like Charlie. Thank you for leading the way. Well, that's great. That's what I want to hear. MJ, we are all learning from Charlie. I totally respect you even more after this post. I've been listening to you for years, and to see the humility and growth from you challenged me even more to be a better Christ follower, husband, dad, son, brother, etc. We love you, JP, and are praying for you as we seek to be closer to Jesus and model him through love, forgiveness, patience, truth, kindness. Yeshua HaMashiach is King of all. There is none like him, nor will there ever be. That's great, MJ. Really thankful. Pony Singer, this is Christ alive in you. My daughter, I'm so proud of you, Dad. I know Mr. Kirk is smiling down at you from heaven. He's so proud of you and is praying for you. Remember, you are a good man and are continually becoming better, as is evident by this declaration. I love you. Veronica Wimbley, your testimony is such a blessing. Thank you for being you and everything he has created you to be. Lewis Breton, wow, I've read this declaration out loud to our household. We love you and respect your bold, vulnerable, and extremely courageous declaration. We'll continue to pray for you and your family and know that with every declaration, there is a spiritual battle. I stand in Christ with you for our families and for the multitude of souls that need us to listen and love better. May God bless you and those that you have in front of you, and thank you for your tremendous leadership. And I'm sure it's not missed on you, Lewis, that was Rosh Hashanah, ahead of the new year, time when we ask everyone forgiveness, because you do every year so well. For those of you who don't know, that is out of the Torah. David Coombs, well-spoken and courageous. and a couple of emails. I appreciate your comments and feel the same way after watching the memorial all day long. I never heard Kirk speak before seeing replays, though I had heard him as some young MAGA influencer. My perception, he's actually won the election, turned the tide for Trump. I did plan to even watch the memorial, expect it to be a somber 1.5 hour event. Completely underestimated who he was, what he was doing, the fact that he was a serious Christian, the influence he had, the magnitude of the memorial as a 62-year-old guy who is a Christian, lifelong political conservative with prestigious degrees, global travel success, which is in quotations. I was really taken aback by all this. Charlie and Erica will have a life-changing impact on me. I did not even know the man these last dozen of years. Appreciate all you do. Yeah, I'm right there with you, Steve Bobowitz. I get that too. Jeffrey, major brother, you humbled yourself before the Lord, and I was humbled as the Holy Spirit influenced you with mercy, truth, and honesty. I shared your tears with recognition of Yeshua manifesting the results of a good man, excellent Christian following God's calling. Amen, brother. Your honesty is a blessing. Thank you, and thank Yeshua. So there's just some of the remarks there. I really appreciate them because, that's hard to do. And the most important thing I think is to make your own declarations and draw your own conclusions from that. And that's, what I'm doing that's what I'm going to do. And something I tell all of my young martial arts kids is the only person you can change is yourself. But when you change, everyone around you is forced to change. That's the most important thing here. And with Turning Point, there's already a lot of contention emerging on X, which again is an intelligence collection platform and an influence operation platform, but it is much more of a free speech platform than it ever has been because we're still on it. YouTube seems to have blinked as well and is saying they're going to restore accounts as well because they must be in trouble. So maybe I'll get back my account with my 78,000 followers. We'll see. By the way, teamamericacoffee.com, go there, or staybrewed.com. Or go to jeffreyprather.com shop and get the Prather private label coffee. That is great stuff as well. You can also go to jeffreyprather.com/Jace and get your special customized prescription medicine kits by talking online with the doc. I've had him on the show as well. And you can go to heavensharvest.com and use code JP15, heavensharvest.com, code JP15 for 15%. And this is a healthy alternative to keeping your family safe. Non-GMO seeds, we love it and use it a lot. Check out mehanmd.com and use the code JPHealth, mehanmd.com. So those alternative doctors, they take a lot of blood. They do an incredible analysis of you in great detail and customize proactive, healthy medicine for you. That's really helped me a great deal as well. Go into the jeffreyprather.com shop, get your Curative Bay hypochlorous spray. This stuff works great. Make sure you're getting your Faraday bags. I was just at the new house site, and one of the contractors was asking me, because we were talking about putting up some EMF paint in my daughter's walls. It's like, what's that about? So I was explaining. So you definitely need to have your Faraday bags. In fact, I'm just about to update the product line because they got some new stuff out. They were gracious enough to send me new items of all that, but there's lots of great Faraday stuff in jeffreyprather.com/shop, and still got a couple sets of my books if you're interested in getting signed copies. You can always get the Kindle versions on Amazon, but if you want signed copies by me, Chase, Terror on the Border, Fact-Based Fiction by an XD Agent, Initiation, Boys Are Born, Men Are Trained, My Journey with Apache Medicine Man. Want those signed? Happy to do that. Got some of those left as well. Initiation, really important book. Very proud of it. Funny, true story of me training with Apache Elder Philip Casador. So those are some of the sponsors, and also, of course, sat123.com, sat123.com. phone123.com. You can get your satellite phones there, the Iridium 9555. So support the show and support my sponsors because the show's free. And that's really why I did an interview with Brett Miller the other day, Galileo.com, phone123.com. I don't think it's up yet, but he was asking, well, how come he's not bigger? How come I'm not bigger? And that's because we are not in the inside. We are on the outside. So that's how we stay free, though, of any big influence, is we are not for sale. But the turning point here, and Charlie Kirk's assassination, his martyrdom, live, that has been seen by millions, hundreds of millions around the world, is the largest apostolic event in at least a century in modern history. And people are going to empathize with that the same way they empathized with Yeshua being tortured and crucified, because that is human nature. Of course, the demonic left does not believe in human nature. As I talked about in Iowa, they think about directed evolutionary nature, and so they don't understand fallen human nature and the essential intrinsic intuitive human nature of when you know something is good or bad. So the turning point is the Christic co-option versus the Cabal corruption and control. That is, a lot of people are commenting, including Team America members and some very sharp Team America members, and you've seen them guest on occasion here about the warning signs they were seeing at the Charlie Kirk Memorial Service. So, and there are some, even my wife commented on Erica's Malta cross. And I'll go into that a little bit later, but that's a theme that we should all think about because and as Tucker Carlson pointed out, everybody is going to try and use this great tragic event to their own purposes. So we will see which way this goes. And I don't know, but I'm going to give, of course, Erica the benefit of the doubt there. But it doesn't really matter, because the Christic co-option of the failing American empire, just as the early Christian martyrs co-opted the falling Roman Empire, will occur. That is, it doesn't really matter in the end how corrupted Trump is, or if Erica is corrupted or not. It matters if I'm corrupted. It matters if you're corrupted, because this is a resistance movement that is authentic from the ground up. We will see about that. Excuse me for a second here. I have a guest, but she had not gotten back to me, so I'm going to try and tell her. So that's the bottom line. And so if we stay true to Christ and to God and to ourselves, it doesn't matter what Erica does. It doesn't matter what Trump does. But there's a great article out that is showing how the deep state is taking control, not just of Trump, but of Charlie's movement as well. And it's saying, it's from the Dollar Vigilante: while the left and right wings of the Jones plantation have been hypnotized by revolving crisis actors, engraved bullets, yeah, destroyed confessions and fake conversations between Mormon trainee furry patsies, if they even exist at all. The U.S. Congress has been rolling out more support for the Sabbatean death cult. What really caught my eye here was the Sabbatean death cult. They didn't say the typical Khazarian myth stuff. So I thought this was worth listening to. See you there. Stay rude. So the Senate Republicans blocked a Senate demand that a Department of Justice, including FBI offices, U.S. attorneys, make public many unclassified investigative materials relating to Jeffrey Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, associated entities, including flight logs. So Senate Republicans blocked that because they are in on it. And they're passing an amendment that prevents the Pentagon from boycotting Israel. The House passed an amendment, which is Republican, in the National Defense Authorization Act, the NDAA, that prohibits the Department of War from entering into contracts with entities that are engaging in politically motivated boycotts of Israel. So, Charlie was against all this. I've been listening to his stuff. My kids and I have been listening to a lot of his stuff now. The House has passed a defense policy bill authorizing $900 billion in military spending, including $650 million for Israeli military aid. And of course, there were 250 lawmakers, con men and con women, part of the 50 States One Israel event in Jerusalem, serenaded by Over the Rainbow, the Wizard of Oz song known for the Project Monarch trigger to activate MK Ultra mind control slaves doing their master's bidding. Bibi personally threatened them with having a bomb in their pocket that Israel could set off at any moment. And Secretary of State Marco Rubio requested to revoke the passports of Americans who provide material support to terrorist organizations, including pro-Palestinian activism or criticism of Israel. So when this was rejected, he went to pray at the Wailing Wall. And you could lose your citizenship if you make light of Charlie Kirk's death, demonstrated a massive crackdown on free speech. So suddenly, with the public execution and martyrdom of Charlie Kirk, MAGA supporters are now demanding cancel culture, snitch lines, punishing wrongthink, and restricting free speech, doing exactly what Charlie Kirk was against. They are turning point. And then, of course, Candace Owens has been calling this out, but now I guess Candace admitted to being a Mason and a Jesuit-trained Erica Kirk is taking over Turning Point. So, but the other point is I'm Jesuit trained. I admit that. I came out of Catholic everything. I was in the deep state, DIA, DEA. I was pretty deep as well. You are not trapped by your background. I'm a product of rape. So the ridiculous explanation of that is, well, you could kill babies who are products of rape. What does the baby have to do with the evilness of the crime, of the sin? Nothing. You're creating more evil by doing that. So, I would take all of that with a grain of salt. And until otherwise, I'm going to give Erica the benefit of the doubt for what she has been through. But anyway, I do see my guest on, and I'm so glad she made it because there was other people who aren't getting back to me. Clay Clark, who was a friend and has supported me for a long time, isn't getting back to me. Ryan Mata isn't getting back to me. Ivan of the Office of Retribution, which has nothing to do with a Christic message, by the way. But this is someone I've known for a long time who is a true liberty luminary who has always been very kind and generous to me. And I haven't talked to her in a long time. And I really want to catch up and get her take on all of these momentous events. So please welcome with me, Ann Vandersteel, Liberty Luminary.
Liberty Luminary. There's something I haven't been called, but that sounds great. I'll take it. Thank you, Jeffrey. Good to see you. I'm sorry people aren't getting back to you. I'm not sure what that's about. I try to stay out of the lanes of gossip because I'm focused on what I'm doing right now and just trying to solve problems anymore and stepping away from the daily grind of media and just putting out content and joining others when we can collaborate to solve problems and at least shed light on something. So that's where I'm coming from.
Well, that's where I've always found you to come from. And you brought me into Clay Clark, I believe, and you introduced me to everybody and, took good care of me and my family, my wife and everybody. My wife, Rachel, says hi, by the way.
Oh, great. Hi, Rachel.
and because I told her you were going to be on today. But it's been a long time, and I really wanted to catch up. So first off, yeah, what are you up to these days? Because you're always, man, you were down in the Darien. You're a studette. I didn't want to go down there anymore. You know, I'm 68 and real broken, but you were down there with Michael Yon. I mean, you're all over you're on the border. You know, I've had enough of those places, but you're out on the front. But what are you up to these days?
So really, I'm focused on a couple of things. We've got a couple of organizations that are up and running. So the Zelenko Freedom Foundation has been repurposed. It is doing business as American-made foundation, and we are still an educational vehicle. We're educating people, and we're very focused on solving problems in child trafficking, specifically Child Protective Services, the trafficking that goes on through CPS and their ancillary agencies in all 50 states that run under different 3 or 4 letter acronyms, right? Every state has a different name for Child Protective Services. We're very focused on the funding, where it comes out of DC, out of our Social Security Administration. It's an $80 billion a year industry. Besides the fact that Joe Biden left the borders open and brought in over 500,000 kids that they know about, there are many more than that. I can assure you that came across the border. There were gotaways. And it's a matter of, finding out, tracking these children down, making sure first that they're safe. And Tom Homan is doing the best he can with what he has. And I'd say he's probably still almost fighting with one arm tied behind his back, not because President Trump, but just because the situation is just so chaotic right now. There's just too much going on. That being said, CPS is in our sights. We've just put a documentary out, the second one, and we are now launching several federal lawsuits in the state of Massachusetts based on one case. And we're building basically a templated lawsuit that we will be able to wash, rinse, and repeat in as many states as necessary until we finally shut CPS down from coast to coast. Not because we don't want families to have access to support should they need it, but because we need to reimagine how we are doing this. The state and the federal government intervening in families has proven to be quite toxic. It is making America less than great by dissolving the family unit. And yesterday in court, explosively, we just found out that, or we didn't find out, we knew this, but they finally admitted that the Department of Children and Families in Massachusetts admitted to not only harassing the Rivera family, which ended up in the state of Texas, by the way, where they were arrested because they wouldn't give their 9-month-old a vitamin K shot. And that was the genesis for the CPS chase and harassment. But they also admitted that there was no valid reason for them to issue an arrest warrant and lock up both parents in jail for a month in Texas and then have them extradited to Massachusetts and keep the kids for the last 10 months. So this has been an exercise in horror, and the children are traumatized. The family has been traumatized, but they actually admitted it in court. And you would have thought the judge would have said, well, if you were harassing the family without warrant, without a valid reason, and you had them arrested without valid reason, the judge should have turned to the DA and said, indict and arrest CPS caseworkers here and the head of the Department of Children and Families for such atrocities. But you know what? That doesn't happen in the Communist People's Republic of Massachusetts. So it's a matter of multiple lawsuits we're filing on their behalf. And we're going for, criminal damage, the criminal activity and damages for this family, because it's significant. And Texas is unfortunately also embroiled in this because Ken Paxton's, that's his state as the chief law enforcement officer. When the marshals come in there and make arrests, he has to be notified. They should have validated what was this warrant about and was it a legitimate warrant. They didn't. They just passed it on through and then held this family in for 30 days in the state of Texas. So I think Paxton running for Senate is going to have to probably turn around and go after the state of Massachusetts with us, because that'll be the only way he can save his bacon, if you catch my drift. So it's, and this is what we got to do, Jeffrey. So we're fighting back at that level. I'm battling with the IRS big time, going after them.
Hold on. Let me stop you there. So that's really excellent. I just did. So Team America is really focused on the line in the sand of child trafficking. I did my only in-person speech in Iowa. I talked about I did talk about the CPS. Of course, I'm very close to that issue because I was a product of rape, an orphan. I was blessed to survive all that. But the Refugee Council, 501c3 that has the 10 voluntary agencies under it that feeds all the federal money to it, is what I went over in great detail. And so it's great that, our work is paralleling and augmenting, but not replicating. But please email me those connections so I can post all those. And I want to also get that template out to Team America as well.
Sure. As soon as we have all these lawsuits, I mean, yesterday what happened in court was so explosive, and because we put a documentary out called "Taken: State-Sanctioned Kidnapping," we had our premiere in Massachusetts at a beautiful theater in it's called Legacy Theater in near Fitchburg, Massachusetts, Dedham, Massachusetts, excuse me. Beautiful area. It was multiplex theater. We had the whole rented out.
Wow.
It was oversold. Actually, our team had to get up and leave the theater so we could have more people come in and sit. But it was so well received, and we've done a lot of media on this, literally on national platforms all over the place. Maureen Steele has been writing article after article. We have really blown this up. That the judges and the court, it's a closed loop in family court. Your judges, your caseworker, the attorneys.
Well, they're friends of the court. They're friends of the court.
It's disgusting. They were so furious that they sanctioned and tried to sanction one of our attorneys, part of our United Law Coalition for the American Made Action organization we have that is filing these lawsuits. And so our foundation put out the documentary to educate our American Made Action arm. Our C4 is literally getting legally involved in this, and we're doing it on behalf of the family. But the judges tried to sanction one of our attorneys and basically get him disbarred. So we lost about 3 weeks, in addition to the fact our websites were attacked, and both of them were taken down temporarily for a day after we premiered our movie. So they're really not happy with us because we're bringing the truth. So we've now buttressed ourselves, and we've gotten through the sanction problem. And our attorneys are like, screw them. We're fighting on, and we're going to expose it. So I'm currently working on another little quote unquote truth piece. Call it a hit piece if you want, but it's really a truth piece on what happened in court yesterday to expose just how evil they are and that they don't care that they're illegally stealing your kids. Those children, after the mother was found not guilty for kidnapping her own children, this is what they called it, familial kidnapping. Okay. They had to leave Massachusetts because they were being harassed by the law enforcement of Fitchburg as well as CPS. They left and went to Texas, and then the marshals came and scooped them up. Jeffrey, you can't make this stuff up. It's just pure evil is what it is. It's pure evil.
Wow.
Over a vitamin K shot. Legit a vitamin K shot.
Wow. And the marshals are the original federal special agents and the least corrupt.
Supposedly.
Well, yeah.
Well, they obviously listened to the state, right? Massachusetts said, hey, we have a warrant here for arrest. It was issued. They ran, they ignored, they didn't show up in court. The fact of the matter is they were never served. But
they're marshals. They would not have had to enforce that state warrant.
Well, you're right. So why did they? I can't answer that question yet. We don't know yet. We're going to have to sue to find out.
Did this happen under Pedo Joe or under Trump?
No, under Trump.
Well, that's so, I have personally, witnessed the corruption of the federal agencies, law enforcement and intelligence, and kind of the marshals were the least corrupt. They were the first, and they were the least corrupt because really all they did was fugitives, and they did court work. And
that's what they did. I wonder if I could even pull up the press release here. The press release from the city of Fitchburg, Massachusetts, basically called the Rivera's fugitives, and that they had been caught and arrested in Texas, and they were being, brought to justice. It's like, and they were charged with familial kidnapping. That, can you imagine 25 law enforcement officers showing up to your residence in Texas at gunpoint and pulling the parents out at gunpoint in front of their little children, a 9-month-old.
That's something that I'm very familiar with under the law, because I've had to teach it many times to security and also to federal law enforcement. If the kids are with their parents or wherever they're at, and you get into a domestic dispute, they stay where they are at. So, I'm sure the marshals knew this. This goes back to my whole problem now with Trump talking about how great federal law enforcement is. And we've talked before about how they were hassling you, but the same people that are still on the job trafficked hundreds of thousands of children. They have not confessed. They have not repented. And assuming if somebody else came in and told them to start trafficking again, I guess they would, because they were just going along with it. And that's my biggest problem with you can't just say, okay, we're going to be good guys now when you've done those kinds of things. The only way I know is the Christic way, and that is to confess and repent and demand that. But Trump's not doing that. He's not leading that. I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
After what I saw at the border, during 2023 and 2024 between Texas and Darien Gap and up and down in Central America, and just getting an understanding of the trail of tears, if you will, and all the apparatus involved from the United Nations, NGOs, our own government, Customs and Border Protection, working with NGOs like Catholic Charities and Jewish Family Services and HIAS to basically bring these people across into the United States. And ignore Article 4, Section 4, ignore the Customs and Border Protection legal checkpoint. Just ignore it. See them in the river, pull them up, put them on a bus and send them on their way and, pack them all the way into New York City, whatever. When I saw that, I was so disgusted. And I looked at them. I'm like, how do you guys go to bed at night? I mean, you swore an oath to uphold and protect the Constitution, and you're doing anything but right now. I don't give a crap if Joe Biden is telling you to do this,
right,
or your boss is.
Right.
The Constitution is like really clear. Article 4, Section 4 is super clear. And to that point, Jeffrey, I said this earlier today on an NTD Live. So is Article 1, Section 10, Clause 3. Where was Kristi Noem and all the other governors, Abbott, et cetera, that said, I have a sworn duty to defend my borders from a foreign invasion? None of them stood on that. They were like bussing him around the country. So
into hotels, which are child bordellos,
exactly.
Yeah.
So, and Joe Biden with his so the American people have to give me the tools. Are you freaking kidding me? Your tool is right here, you pedophile. It's right here. It's the Constitution. But that doesn't mean anything. These what we have right now in DC. Oh, I'm getting really pissed. I've come through the stages of grief over Charlie Kirk and Boone Cutler, by the way, and I'm now really angry. And so I've been on a rampage the last 2 days because I finally snapped out of it. But these boneheads, these criminals, have not done anything that they were supposed to do to protect us. And the instructions on how to do it are right here. This is not a complex document. It's certainly not the tax code by any stretch of the means. They don't do any of it. They're corporate slaves. They're satanic pedophiles, and they're all criminals. And they're working in a syndicate with the government of Israel and with other governments around the world that are manufacturing terrorists to keep the rest of us terrified. And I'm sick of listening to the so-called social media pundits that are trying to belittle the rest of us that are calling this out, and they're standing by the official narrative coming out of the FBI, which we now know has lied and lied and lied again. What's changed? Nothing. I'm sorry. The amount of evidence coming out on social media with what happened to Charlie Kirk is the exact antithesis of what they're trying to tell us.
We don't even, with all the investigative reporters, we don't even need the FBI.
We don't need the FBI. Exactly. That's what we're proving, right?
I've said it for a long time, but here's the real problem: is Trump is captured. I think the Butler assassination attempt was legitimate, but I think he was somehow captured after that because he's turned on everything. He's a slave to Israel. People don't want to hear that. I've lost a lot of supporters.
Let's stop right there. Let's pause and dissect that statement, because that's a misleading statement. Let's define Israel, because I'm very careful with this, because I don't like to just lump Israel into some one blob. It's not, right? If you pull up the Bible, and I know you know the Bible much better than I, Israel represents a geographic area as defined in the Bible, but it represents really the people of that area, who they are, the biblical Hebrews. It does not represent the IDF, Mossad, Bibi Netanyahu, and the Knesset. It doesn't represent the government of Israel. It represents the people. That's the biblical definition. In 1948, the Balfour Declaration then created a state. 1948 defined state, and they just, cut into Palestine and kicked a bunch of people out. But frankly, for years, Palestinians and Christians were going back and forth, and Israelis were going back and forth across that border, working in each other's countries.
So were Jews. They were all getting along.
Right?
They were all getting along.
Yeah, everybody was getting along fine until, of course, the CIA and Mossad and MI6 got together and go, well, we're going to have to kick this up a notch if we want to make some more money out of this. Let's get some terrorist organizations. Let's get Hamas going. Let's get ISIS going. Let's get Al Qaeda going. Those are fabrications.
Obama gets ISIS going, but
I'm sort of being overly general. But these are government these are government creations. These weren't just organically created, is what I'm trying to tell you. Totally. So when you say Israel, I say, let's be very specific. Let's say the government, the Israeli government, which is Bibi Netanyahu and the Knesset, Mossad. And then, of course, you have to connect MI6 and our own CIA, because they all work together against the good people of Israel and the good Americans in our country. And this is the problem. And they do the bidding of the bankers, because all wars are bankers' wars. So don't lose. People shouldn't run from you because you say Israel. You needed to be just a little bit more specific, and then maybe they'll go, wait a minute, because that's really what we need to hear. They need to hear the truth, not just Israel, because then
No,
they're going to throw
I've gone
stupid
all over that,
anti-Semite crap, which is nonsense.
but I also delineate how American Christian Zionists are fooled by their pastors
Agreed.
because they don't understand the parable of the vineyard, which is in all the synoptic gospels, that when you kill the son of the vineyard owner, you are no longer the vineyard inheritors. That's a clear message saying they were no longer the true Israelites. Anybody who is Christ following is. And that's a big step for a lot of older Americans who are just propagandized by Darby Schofield,
Yeah.
heretical, and lots of pastors still go along with all that.
There's no difference between what happened to them and doctors today that came out of med school that was funded by the Rockefellers, right? They were lied to about homeopathic, naturopathic remedy, which is what God gave us on this earth, right? Seeds and vegetables and flowers and fruits and good and meat that had, seeds, vegetables and fruit have seeds in it. What are they doing today? GMO, no seeds. I just got done doing a show with John Richardson about this, talking about apricot seeds.
Yeah, I'm going to have John on. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, everything is upside down, inside out, and backwards. And this is what I think there's a lot of problems with the church and the pastors. They've been lied to by the same textbooks. Similarly lied to by the textbooks that they learned their faith from, as doctors today get from medical textbooks. So
what do you think about Trump at this point, though? Do you agree with me that he has been captured?
I think he is under I don't want to say he's totally captured yet. Has he made a lot of bad choices? Yeah, I think he's made bad recommendations. I think he's put some very bad people around him, but I also think he's got look, Susie Wiles is his chief of staff. She worked on the Bibi Netanyahu re-election campaign.
I know.
Say no more. I mean, you need to look at who his chief of staff is, and I try to put myself in people's shoes. I know how much stuff is coming at me, and I'm triaging. Okay, I'm focused on CPS, the IRS, and censorship, and another project right now that I won't talk about. But I have 4 major projects. I'm not doing daily news shows anymore. I'm focused on documentaries and projects and actually solving problems in these 4 areas. Okay.
Right.
And I still have a lot of stuff coming at me that has nothing to do with those 4 things. Some does, some doesn't, but it's a lot. I only have me. I don't have a chief of staff to triage information. Right. Trump's got the whole world coming at him. So it makes what my situation is nothing. I'm a nothing I'm a pimple on the gnat's ass compared to what that man has coming at him. So he depends on the people around him. When you have bad people that have an agenda that are captured, like, Congress is captured, it's very difficult. He's not a politician, but I would have thought by now he would have seen it.
Yeah. So I agree with you, because I've been, on senior staff and DIA and stuff. So I get that. I get the constellation that filters.
Yeah.
I totally get that. But by now, and he's got RFK in there, and he's got Gabbard telling him the truth.
And Gabbard is, Gabbard is in there by the grace of people like, General Mike Flynn, Roger Stone, who are, vehement truth tellers. Somebody, Guitar Anon put a tweet out today. I retweeted it. All of the posts Trump made about General Flynn, which were, I thought, fantastic, right? It was the truth of how Trump viewed General Flynn from top to bottom, from the beginning of Trump 1 till whenever today. And it's very clear Trump sees General Flynn as a trusted ally. So at some point, I think President Trump's got to make some decisions when he has flip-flopped on Ukraine. Remember, it was going to be one phone call and it was done. And now he's going to send weapons over there?
Yeah.
What? After he was bitching about spending money on Ukraine, now he's going to spend money on Ukraine?
That's why I'm saying he's captured. He is reversing himself on all the major, plus the Iran bombing. And my old agency, DIA, said that won't stop it. And that analyst got hammered hard for that. That's why so the tariff war, which is, I think, in response to the unrestricted warfare out of China, I think is a great effort. The cartel war is a necessary effort, and I think that's going pretty good. But the war he's got to wage against the deep state, because they're the ones trying to kill him and everything, he seems to have surrendered and been captured, in my view, completely.
Well, I look at it, we're facing an economic calamity very, very soon. And so let's dissect that. The central banks, Federal Reserve, Bank of England, Bank of International Settlements, the central banks that run Western civilization, Europe and the United States, Australia, Canada, New Zealand, right? Those central
Yep.
banks. It's pretty evident now that every time that one of our NATO countries has invaded another country, it's because they wanted to put them on the central bank system. We could talk about Gaddafi in Libya. We saw he died. They were pissed because he was going to put them on their own gold-backed currency. They didn't want that. And so we fought over territory, trade routes, and energy. And the recent machinations of we have to bomb Iran because a bomb is a joke. I mean, I think how many memes have been out there now for the last year talking about the last 40 years of the bomb, Iran's got a bomb in 2 weeks. We've been hearing about it for 40 years. It's BS. Okay, setting that aside, why were they going to do this? Iran connects the Persian Gulf to the Caspian Sea, and they have an oil and gas pipeline, and it's part of the BRI, the Belt Road Initiative trade route. It connects East Asia all the way into Western Europe, right? That was what they were really looking for. They needed to collateralize the fact that they have spent trillions of dollars in wars, right? Between the EU money and the US dollar. They don't have anything backing it up. They need to collateralize that debt with trade routes that'll return on their investment, land, etc. Oil, natural gas, energy. They need to control it. They don't want that energy going east to China. They want that energy west.
So that's a key. Let me interrupt you. Sorry.
Yeah.
But I think that he may be looking. So money, influence, coercion, ego is an old human motivation key. And you analyze somebody. I hit the E for ego with
Mice.
Trump. Mice, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you know your stuff. So I think he's looking for a legacy to defeat communism in China the way Reagan defeated communism in the Soviet Union, and therefore by cutting off Iranian oil, that moves that agenda forward. Because I think Xi's barely hanging on. What do you think about that?
I don't look. Is China a war threat to us? No. Are they a threat in our country?
Warfare has gone perfect for 20 years.
Yeah, they don't need to wage war. They're not.
No, the first counter that's ever been to the successful unrestricted warfare is Trump's tariff war. It's the first and only ever counter, and I think it's working pretty good.
Yep.
But I think he may be looking for a legacy to do what Reagan did in China. What Reagan did in the Soviet Union, he wants to do with China, the fall, because I think Xi's barely hanging on.
Well, so I'll come back to that. Let me finish my thought here, because the way I look at what Trump's doing with the tariff war and with the fact that, if you look at what BRICS is doing, they're trading. Pakistan recently signed a deal with Saudi Arabia, and they're using Chinese military equipment to be a sort of a defense partner for Saudi Arabia. They're trading oil. They're buying Saudi oil with the Chinese yuan. It's kind of a big deal here, right? That Saudi is no longer just a petrodollar partner. And I think Trump was visiting, he was standing next to Robert Friedland, who is a big miner. He's got a big mining company. And Robert Friedland was talking with the Saudi king. And the Saudi king had an opportunity to pick which gentleman he was going to acknowledge first. He chose Robert Friedland over Trump. It was really kind of extraordinary. I caught that in a news cycle. So what I see happening is BRICS is really getting stronger and stronger and stronger. They have their trade routes, and they're settling any of their trade imbalances, like if Brazil and Russia are trading oil and soybeans. If there's an imbalance and who's bought more of what, the other pays back the one that he owes more to in gold. So they're settling their debts in gold. That is true. It's sound trade, sound money. We don't have that right now, and we're trying to bully our way around the world using tariffs. And while that is effective to some degree, it's also hurting us in another degree, because we're becoming more and more isolated, because people are waking up to the fact, and they're dumping treasuries like it's toxic waste. China is dumping treasuries as quickly as possible. Japan is even dumping treasuries after Yellen went there and yelled at them during the Biden regime and said, do not sell our treasuries. We can't. We don't have the power that we think we do, because our currency is bankrupt. So I think Trump's part of it is sort of, this is what I consider appear weak when you're strong, meaning he knows he's stuck with these central bankers, and these central bankers out of the City of London and Bank of International Settlements control the government of Israel, and they use Israel to control us through AIPAC, etc. So I think Trump wants to bankrupt the Federal Reserve. And I think he's trying to figure out how to get people into gold, how to get people into Bitcoin. Although I'm not a Bitcoin person, I'm a gold person. I like to hold my stuff. I don't want to hold either.
Right.
But to each his own. Do what you want. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm just saying I'm a gold bug. I think Trump is wants to see the Federal Reserve crash and then make a gold-backed treasury dollar, something to that effect. I don't think he wants to maintain this system anymore. And I think, we are going to see really tough times here in this country, far worse than we have right now. And we're going to be the ones that come through this last, unfortunately. And it's going to be painful for a lot if you're not paying attention, which is why you and I and many others have sold gold for a long time and said, buy gold, buy gold, buy gold. But now we know why, because the other parts of the world are already doing it successfully. And there's commodities exchanges out there, a company called ABEX. Your viewers should look into it, ABAXX. That's a commodities exchange that trades physical commodities, oil, natural gas, whatever, copper, battery metals in real time. And they track it with financial digital titles in real time. And they're exploding. And China is going all in on ABEX. These other BRICS countries are going all in. And guess what? Until we get CFTC, a chairman here, we're not able to even approach. They're not even able to approach the United States right now to become a commodities exchange here, although they will eventually have a seat on either NASDAQ or the new exchange going up in Texas. But this is what the new world order is going to look like. If you want decentralized financial world, you've got to get out of this fiat currency and you've got to get to sound money. And that's what's happening. And Trump's trying to figure out how he can get a piece of it, make it look like he's beholden to the central bankers, which are still bullying, parts of the world right now because they need to collateralize their fiat. But also Trump wants to collapse the fiat. So I think he's playing a little Sun Tzu. And if he's not, God help us, Jeffrey, because then our country is really and going to be going through some serious peril. We'll be having more wars in this hemisphere than that hemisphere. That's for sure.
Wow. So you think the petrodollar's on its way to collapse, or a basket currency, including yuan in there. And you think
I think we should join BRICS. I think we should be using sound money. Florida went to gold. Texas went to gold. States around our country recognize our dollar's crap. So they're going, they're sitting at their own gold reserves and they said, yeah, we can use gold as currency here in Florida. It's no longer a taxable event. Trump made sure of that. So we're making those moves. But Trump's sort of playing along. He's looking weak and impotent while he's excoriating, the United Nations over climate change and climate scam and all this kind of stuff. And his blathering at that press conference with Bobby the other day. I thought, what the hell is wrong with Trump? I mean, he's unscripted. He can't pronounce acetaminophen, but he seemed to be way off script on the whole Tylenol story. He kept talking about these vaccines. It's a lot.
Well, at least he went off script and mentioned the Amish. I think that's RFK's influence. The only people I really like on the staff are RFK and Gabbard.
Same. I'm the same.
Okay.
Yep. I think he should have Flynn and McGregor in there. McGregor should be SecDef and Flynn should be the NSA.
That could, I know both of them, know Flynn real well. That could be, but why is that not happening? And why? So let's go.
That's why, because they're very outspoken against the central bankers and the big pharmaceutical industry. That's why.
Well, the biggest problem, the biggest inflection point is the attorney general. That's where everything, if Bondi has been a complete disgrace and disappointment.
Abysmal.
Because where's the indictments? Now they're talking about something coming against Comey. I believe it if I see it. But she seems to be totally covering up. I mean, so the government's going along. So the Alexandrovich, the Israeli cyber guy, Alexandrovich, he just wasn't going after one kid in Las Vegas. He was setting up, in my estimation, the next Epstein Island via America and Israel, because he was there for a conference. He was working and they let him go. So not only are they not going to release any Epstein stuff, but they're doubling down. The problem with Epstein was there were flight logs. So you just make America Epstein Island. And I think that's what Alexandrovich was doing there.
Do you think we're ever going to see what happened on Epstein Island? Are they ever going to release any of the tapes from Epstein Island? Jeffrey Epstein recorded everything.
Not under Trump. I'm thinking maybe under RFK. I'm already looking ahead to RFK.
You think RFK is going to run for president in 28?
he seems to continue. So remember, he wasn't even supposed to be HHS. Trump said he's not going to be HHS, and all of a sudden he's HHS. He comes from a family of political knife fighters, and there
True.
have been bloody political fights behind the scenes. And the thing with the acetaminophen the other day, which Trump couldn't pronounce, and it's not much. It's the aluminum in the Tylenol, by the way. We all know that, but that happened because of RFK. Totally. Trump was totally out of his. So I think RFK keeps pushing. He keeps pushing outside his box. He keeps pushing outside his envelope, and I'm hopeful about that.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I talked to Dr. Jane Ruby a lot, and she is just furious with RFK. She feels like he's not doing enough to stop the mRNA shots and talk about mRNA as a platform. And I agree. I think mRNA should be completely banned off out of everything. We shouldn't have. I mean, they're still pushing COVID shots for children, and for everybody. Those shots are still out there. They're not banned. They're still not banning RNA at all. God, Robert Malone's still talking about mRNA as, going forward as a positive platform. And it's sickening to me. These shots are rearranging your God-given DNA, for God's sakes. Why?
Don't you think he's fighting out from his organization as well? Just like you're saying, Trump has got his Constellation staff that he's trying to filter through RFK.
Oh, RFK.
Well.
Oh, definitely. Look, I was in Ed Martin's office a month and a half ago or something, and I know that at the very top level, you got good people. Like you said, we've named Tulsi and RFK as a couple of good people, but the rot underneath them is so deep. You've got thousands, hundreds of thousands of these employees in the federal government that just aren't going to help you buy paper clips, let alone solve real world problems. Yeah. So they're going to do everything they can to be a pain in your ass. And I know that, in the DOJ, they're full of it. Although I think Pam Bondi literally could just say, you know what, we're indicting that piece of crap over there and we're going for it. The internet sleuths have already provided us all the evidence. We don't need to do a whole lot more work. Cross some T's, dot some I's, and let's go after these people. And she's not doing it. I believe RFK is probably very similarly disabled like that, meaning he's hamstrung in a lot of areas. But at some point, I mean, is it really because, like what we saw with Charlie Kirk, you say one thing against, a nation state and or its government, you get whacked. I mean, we haven't been able to say Israel murdered Charlie Kirk, but, the biggest piece of evidence was he started to speak out and then boom, this is what happened.
Well, everybody's saying that. I'm saying that. Tucker's saying that.
Yeah.
Very openly. And again, if I put on my criminal investigator hat, who's got the motive? And why now? And then it fits with Israel. And I said very clearly, if somebody can give me a different motive, then I'm open to hearing it, but no one has come forward with anything else.
No, we're getting the manufactured, white supremacist. Now it's it's radical Islam.
The tranny, whatever.
Tranny.
And the boy girlfriend doesn't even exist, it looks like.
Yeah. And all the bullets have the same stuff written on them. It just goes on. I mean, and that whole narrative of that kid on the roof running, within 3 minutes after killing Charlie, he was able to disassemble a gun, put it in his little bag, and run across the roof and get off in 3 minutes. Like, what is he, an expert marksman? Could you disassemble a gun in 3 minutes and be off the roof? Well, maybe you could, but
no, you can't. No, especially with that scope. No, it's the scope screwed on, and it's ridiculous. It's a ridiculous cover story.
And the text, I mean, everything was so neatly organized. It was like already out in the media before, and they had the Patsy, the old guy was Zen or whatever his name was, I shoot me, I did it, shoot me. It's like,
well, the biggest, this is actually one of the show points, is how we know Charlie's death is a cover up is because just like Waco, where they burned the evidence, they bulldozed the evidence into the fire, just like Butler, where the FBI's out there with a jacket on, hose in the roof, is they just took the whole site apart. The whole site, crime scene. Not only did they take the camera down, but they moved the pavers. They're changing the entire site. Just like 9/11, they take the steel and ship it to China. So if there was any doubt that this is another government cover up, I think that concludes it right there completely.
I know. I feel very sad for, people who had faith that something was going to change when it comes to the intelligence community. I don't, unfortunately. I see it's the same old, and I don't know, if they are really all that threatened, and if they just they don't have any control over the. I mean, look, we saw people handing things to each other when you did 4K frame by frame slowing down. I do believe the theory about the microphone blowing up. I absolutely believe that because Bibi Netanyahu, bragged about all the pagers and he gave Trump a gold one. That was, to me, a veiled threat. Hello.
No, that's exactly what it was. That's exactly what it was. And that again ties. Plus, there's the high-speed drones flying around that look like military UAPs. About 5 of those. Yeah,
there was a CIA plane that was flying overhead before and then after.
Yep.
That was also discovered. I mean, it's like, why would the CIA have a plane flying around for a Charlie Kirk event? You know what I mean? It's
well, they probably dropped the drones and then recovered the drones because they were loitering. But anyway, yeah. Well, okay. Gabbard's DNI, and so Gabbard seems to be somehow in the midst of that intel swamp, surviving. And giving intelligence to Bondi. The problem is, this is the classic problem with intelligence: is its sources and methods, and it's terrible as evidence because it never works well. I saw this in the counter drug days when I was dual credentialed. Is you always want to cover up sources and methods, and that's exactly what you don't want in court. You want a chain of custody.
So, what's the solution? Because I don't know.
Well, I don't know why the FBI isn't cut off at the ankles and the CIA isn't cut off. How many failures does it because the FBI is really an intelligence agency with law enforcement functions. And I graduated the FBI Academy, taught there as well. So why are we still funding it? Why does everybody continue to bring in the FBI? Why? Because you never hear anything. I even heard Alex Jones the other day say, the FBI's got to get on this. And I was like pulling my hair out. I want states. I want several like Paxton, Missouri, Oklahoma, several states attorneys generals to get a task force, a state task force, not a federal task force, of their attorney general special agents together and do the work. Forget the feds completely. Don't do any HIDA, OCDF, JTTF task forces.
Have you heard if and I haven't looked into this yet, but is anybody at Turning Point or any of the donors or anybody from the boards filing lawsuit? Is Erica Kirk filing lawsuit against?
Well, I'm so glad you brought that up, because the next careful thing that I want to ask you about, with total respect, is because I was really, yesterday on my show, you should listen to read my Substack or something. I was in tears because I didn't really pay attention to Charlie Kirk because he wasn't on the cutting edge. He was still, he questioned October 7th, but he didn't declare it like I did and confirmed it on my show, but he was talking to people I've given up on, the college generation, and I'm going to be a better Christian because of him. I took an oath that he had done so much more than me. He was half my age, twice the man. I was ashamed. And I'm getting emotional again. So I really learned so much, and that changed me. And I think there are people who are questioning Erica because she's got a Malta cross on. Malta goes back to the Knights, which is a secret order, and OSS, CIA, Wild Bill Donovan.
So this is where I know I've already seen a lot of these conspiracy things coming up and these stories coming up, making some assertions about Erica Kirk. You know what? Before anybody does that, how about you interview her and talk to her? Like, do a face-to-face sit down. You can tell a lot about a person when you sit down. I'm very good with body language. It's one thing to sit on a Zoom call like this. It's another thing to sit face-to-face with them. But I would not jump down a rabbit hole and try and cast aspersions on Erica because she's wearing a certain cross. A lot of people don't know what that means. Do you know what I mean? Right. No, I just don't. I never want to go there until all of a sudden you see, let's say all of a sudden Erica went to the Wailing Wall and started kissing the wall and doing things that were contrary and not questioning the same things that Charlie was. She said that he left her 28 diaries that he was writing, and he left specific instructions on what his plans were for, he left a bunch of diaries. Maybe it wasn't 28, but he had specific plans and the future plans all the way through 2028. So she said he left her a roadmap. Maybe she'll start to publish it, which would be very handy. We saw his works the last 30 days, Jeffrey, where he was openly questioning, and he really, that show he did with, what's his name? Oh God, when he questioned October 7th. I can't think of his name
Oh,
right now.
yeah, he was questioned October 7th. Yes, and he was
Yeah,
chafing against Netanyahu.
in the
Uh,
IDF, right? I mean, he's. I've been to Israel. It's a
yeah,
fortress. You can't go anywhere without an
yeah.
IDF soldier, right? He's on Patrick Bet David. Excuse me, sorry, Patrick. No disrespect. My
No,
mind
no,
went blank.
I'm right there with you. I think, and also whatever holds, and it looks like her mom may have been involved in intelligence. And again, I'm the perfect example of this. Again, by the typical logic, as a product of rape, I should have been aborted, but I have nothing to do with the evil deed that was
Correct.
done in my creation.
Right.
And also, I was deep inside the secret government, the deep state, and I turned out all right. I think,
Right. Yeah,
Uh,
you were a product of rape. You're also a product of working in what I consider to be a cabal, cabal
yeah,
corp series of corporations, and
yeah.
you're
And
now
I
out
think
here.
whatever ties that she did have before his death, now that she's going to have to raise those two kids alone, I think those ties are cut, and I'm going to give her that benefit of a doubt until I see
Yeah.
otherwise.
Yeah,
I,
absolutely. I watched the funeral on Sunday on my phone. I had to be somewhere Monday morning, bright and early, and otherwise I would have gone to Arizona. But I had a commitment for somebody who I'm working with on a project, and I honor my commitments, and it was a commitment that was basically in court, so I really couldn't unschedule something. It was
right,
like we
right.
had to show up. So anyhow, the short of it is, I watched that whole thing, and I was doing errands and running around. I had big sunglasses on because I was crying. I
Yeah.
was going through the phases of grief. I was in disbelief, shock. I kind of retreated. I could hardly function for a good. My husband was like, "Are you going to be okay?" I'm like, "I don't know. I don't know. This is just. I can't even believe this just happened." I wasn't alive when Kennedy was shot, so I didn't witness a political assassination. This is the first one I've witnessed like of this magnitude. And let's be honest, Charlie Kirk could have easily run for president someday. And now that I know
Yeah.
what I know, and I had, like you, stopped paying attention to his daily stuff, because several years ago I saw him kind of sort of drinking the RNC
Yeah.
Kool-Aid, and it was
Yeah.
just too
Yeah.
vanilla for me. And he wasn't.
Yeah.
I think he like sort of seemed to have lost his edge, but he switched around pretty quickly,
Well,
and he
not only
started.
that, but we're watching. My kids and I are watching. I gave up on the college students, and I'm like, I'll teach the kids, but he didn't. He went right to the college
He
students
never
and was
gave up.
respecting them and listening to them and giving them a voice, giving them a microphone. So I got to do that now. I gotta.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. That's why we do what we do. That's why I'm out in the field a lot. That's why I
Yep.
do what I do, because you've got to engage with the other side. You can't just sit in an echo chamber and complain, bitch, moan, and whine. And Charlie didn't, and he started to see the light, which I think was really important. And to lose that, somebody who had such a massive trajectory and could have easily run for president someday if he so chose to, I think it would have been actually quite remarkable to see all that happen. And that was cut short.
Yeah,
So
but I think now Erica could run for president in a decade.
sure, if she wants to, if she wants to, her kids will be teenagers. That's totally up to her. But I'm not, like you said, just go back to I'm not going to jump down the conspiracy that she's, some setup and a Mossad plan. I'm not doing that until there's something that's a lot more concrete than just conjecture of who her mother is and what she's wearing. I'm not going to go there. I just refuse to do that right now. I think that's way too soon. I think it's totally distasteful. And I think, there's just people like do that stuff for clicks. They may be right. I'm going to hold that reservation out there that there is a chance they're right. I just don't believe it right now. And I'm not looking at that right now, because we have immediate concerns coming. We've got an economic collapse that we're sitting on the verge of. We've got food insecurity coming. Talking about that, do you know that we've not got one contract from China for soybeans in our country this year? And I just drove from Colorado to DC on Route 80, and it's nothing but soy and corn. Chinese were always one of the biggest buyers of soy. They didn't put not one contract. Hello. They're now trading with other nations. We've got problems. We have got problems. The Panama Canal has been, somewhat of a problem. We've got problems right now.
Well, I
And
think Trump's done a pretty good job with the Panama Canal.
he has done a good job with the Panama Canal, but you're looking at the BRI is still marching on. The Belt and Road Initiative is still marching on, and they're marching on with themselves. And they've recognized, well, we don't necessarily need to trade with the US. We can trade with ourselves. And that's going to be interesting, which is why we've got to get all of our manufacturing back. We need all of our pharmaceutical manufacturers back. If you are on pharmaceuticals of any kind, Sadly to say, we are so dependent. We are insecure there. Our national security is literally threatened at the moment because we can't, we're not sustainable in some of the key critical areas. So that's my
No,
rant on that.
no, that's very true. But going back on Ukraine, which is making more of an enemy of Russia, which Trump and Putin always got along pretty well.
Yeah.
Putin's been building up resources, gold, gas, oil. And so that seems counterproductive as well. The whole going back to invest in the failed Ukraine war is a total disappointment.
It is to me too, because the Eastern Ukrainians, the reason Putin was in there was because the Western Ukrainians, the Azovs, Kiev, aka Zelensky, the real whats, were the ones shelling Eastern Ukraine. They were abusing their own people, so to speak. And the Eastern Ukrainians are like, please, Mother Russia, come rescue us. And so Putin was in there trying to defend the true ethnic Russians that wanted to be, they would prefer to be part of Russia. They don't want to be affiliated with those people. So why Trump has done an about face, only thing I can suggest is maybe he's just trying to pretend he's in line with these monsters that have been, bankrupting our country and Western civilization for a long time. Look at Germany, totally sliding into deindustrialization. Their economy is on the skids. They are literally going into an economic depression right now. And they have no choice at this point, I don't think, but to maybe join BRICS. They're not going to be left with a choice to do that. Nord Stream 2 is kaput. They don't have that. We're putting pressure on them so they can't get the oil and gas out of Russia. India is now being sanctioned because they're selling oil and gas from Russia into Western Europe. And Trump's like, no, you can't do that. So what's Trump going to do? Tell Europe you got to be in the dark? I mean, what's that going to do for relations there? At some point,
it looks like the only person he's aligned with, the only country he's aligned with is Israel.
Right. And Israel is controlled by who? The bankers.
Yeah.
So,
but without us, Israel could easily collapse.
Correct.
Of the two, we can go back to being a farming nation. Because I say our republic's fallen and our empire is failing, which is okay. We go back to being like we were, but it's not okay for Israel. Israel can't survive like that. But then that activates, revelation scripture.
And well, does it activate? Is the Samson option a real thing? Do the Israelis have nukes in our country? Do you believe that? I mean, would they actually do something? Would they detonate nukes in major cities? I mean, is that a real thing from where you're sitting? Could that be what's holding Trump hostage?
I got a book that is about Arabs bringing in a tactical nuclear device, said SADAM, small atomic demolition munition.
Beach balls?
And I think that is true. And I think they are here. And whether they would actually do it or not, it could be faked as well. And again, all you got to do is look at 9/11 and Israeli art students dancing, and all of that.
Right.
So that's a good point, that he could be being held hostage by that. That's a good point.
I don't know. I mean, what would you do if you realized that they might detonate a nuke in New York City or Miami or Los Angeles or Denver or, Tulsa? I mean, do you sacrifice millions of people and, send your country over a cliff because a nuke went off? Do you try to just sort of slow roll this and hope that the global reset puts the pressure on the central bankers to the point they have no choice but to go along and get along and restore sound money and keep the central bankers in a position where they can't collateralize the debt they have by taking over Iran and the trade routes and the oil and natural gas? I mean, if Western civilization dependent on central bankers is cut off from oil and natural gas and trade routes, they're going to go off a cliff. And that's going to, create a collapse in the entire banking community, which then you collapse the banking community, which has a control over the government of Israel. Maybe that's how you break it. I don't know. This is me spitballing here.
That's real interesting. I was talking with Sarah Westall recently because she was at the Iowa event too. She had been talking about this gold, where there was a lot of gold in in some islands around the Philippines, Have you heard about that?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And
I actually have.
what it sounded pretty fantastical to me. Her update was, because she had been saying that Trump was going to get that. Her update to that was, no, they're taking control of that as well. But is that even realistic, or is that just kind of some kind of?
I don't know enough about it. I've heard this through. Probably shouldn't say who.
Okay.
But I've heard this through somebody who used to work in the NSA, and this individual has traveled over there a lot. And apparently, there was a lot of men in our military that were trapped in a cave. Have you heard this part of the story? Maybe Sarah is familiar with it. I don't know what she shared with you. Does any of this sound sort of vaguely familiar? Yeah.
Yes.
So there is a story over there, and it also includes. I guess there's been a treaty or something. I can't recall if it was a treaty or an executive order where we're supposed to, there's I think, was it $50 million a year has been allocated to bring home, the remains of men from our military that were trapped in this so-called cave where this gold was we could bring home, men every year. There's a $50 million a year budget to do this, something crazy like that. I don't honestly know, but then on the same breath, out of the other side of my mouth, you've got to question, why did they stop the audit for gold in Fort Knox? What happened to that? It was hot to trot to audit the Fort Knox, audit the Fed, even the IRS, all that kind of died. So my guess is we don't have the gold in Fort Knox. My guess is this, the Federal Reserve Bank of New York probably does. If you remember,
yep,
the Federal Reserve Bank had a tunnel in New York City that connected JP Morgan across the street. So do we have gold? JP Morgan got banged a couple of years ago for just under $1 billion in fines by the SEC for artificially suppressing the electronic traded funds, the ETFs of gold. They were artificially suppressing the price of paper gold. I think it was $860 million fine, which is a drop in the bucket for those scumbags, but whatever. They got, a little slap on the wrist, say, hey, don't keep messing with the price of gold on your paper ETFs over there. But they were selling those ETFs, but I don't think they actually had the gold to back it up. So COMEX has seen a run on their gold. Freaking Far East and, Russia, China, and the BRICS nations are buying in their central banks gold like crazy. In fact, Asia, the price of gold is $1,000 an ounce more expensive than it is here in this country. So if gold is, say, $3,800, it's $4,800 over there an ounce. So they see what's coming. I'm talking to gold bugs that are talking 5,000 an ounce here in the States before the end of the year. And some are predicting 15,000 in the next few years because they know that this is where it's going. If you're going to back your currency and you want something that everybody has a fair modicum of exchange, it's always been gold. 5,000 years, proven, tested, it's biblical. So,
So you think Trump is trying to collapse it so the central bankers lose control?
I do, because if the central bankers lose control, Israel's toast, the wars end. And again, this is just me looking at stuff around going, what would make the most sense? I can only prove it through history. And history tells me we've always fought wars over trade routes and energy and commodities. And, thanks to companies like Abex that are now, up and running, they're traded on the over-the-counter exchange out of Canada, the OTC. They are moving shortly into either NASDAQ or potentially maybe the new Texas stock exchange that's going to be opening in Dallas here sometime, I think, in 2026. And when that happens, the United States will be able to participate. But in the meantime, you've got a company that's providing a vehicle for people and countries around the world to exchange commodities in real time and track it. So when you sell a cargo of liquid natural gas out of Houston and it's traveling to Japan, they can actually trade that cargo multiple times from Houston to Japan in real time because they can physically and have a financial digital title on a piece of that cargo and track it and trade that FDT multiple times. You couldn't do that until now. So these are all the things that are good that are happening. But unfortunately, you've got those bankers that realize, oh, shoot, we have now printed more paper than we have collateral to back it up. It's called hyperinflation, and we have to reset it. So that's where we are. How do you collapse the bankers? You don't give them anything to collateralize their debt, and they're forced to collapse.
Somebody
So,
saying the gold was taken during 9/11 Building 7, Rumsfeld, $2 trillion missing. Silver is up 25% past 3 months at $25.32. That beats the price of gold. I don't know what it is right now.
silver, last I have to look. I have to look at it right now. Last I checked, I think it was 40. But silver is starting to really finally take off. I mean, oh my God, I think of all the people that bought so much silver and not gold in the beginning, and gold just gold has more than doubled since 2022. Yeah, it's more than doubled in the last 3 years. So
Nas et al. Was saying it's past 3 months at $25.32. That seems low for silver, but I don't know.
No, I think I think it was 40 the other day. I'd have to pull it up, to be honest. I mean, that's an easy thing. We just get on the internet and look real fast.
Well, so I think we're pretty much aligned, and I'm glad you have some hope for
45.42, 45.42 an ounce right now.
45.42. Okay,
that's the COMEX.
Yep, there it is. Yeah, you got Nas et al. 45.32. That's right. Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Cool. So, yeah, how about that?
Well, you've given me a lot to think about, and also to be hopeful about that Trump is still on our side, even though he's having a hard time.
I can't imagine what it's like to be him. That's all I can say. But I do think you could shortcut a few of these things if you got rid of the intelligence community. It's a joke. I mean, let's gut this thing. That thing needs to be gutted. It's a waste of money, and it's certainly misdirecting all of us. And we need to break off this Five Eyes nonsense. Stop sharing our secrets with these people that are trying to take our country down.
How many failures does an intelligence agency need before you realize that they're doing it? I mean, how many? And then they ask for more, because what? The FBI, DOJ is going to get more money now, not less. They're going to get 2 headquarters. They're going to get a headquarters bigger than the Pentagon.
It's sick, isn't it?
That Bongino Patel pathetic announcement where he was saying, you're shutting down the headquarters. And I've been in that headquarters quite a bit. That thing was being shut down since 2012. That was totally disingenuous. That whole little charade between the two of them. Ridiculous.
You know what's interesting? If I was Dan Bongino and I walked away from a podcast industry business where I think he was making minimally $3 million a year doing his podcasting, and he's now he's a government guy. Do people really, are they that? I mean, is he really going to walk away from that kind of money? And then you see his behavior in the FBI. Is there something else going on? I don't know. I'm just disgusted by the whole thing. I hope I'm wrong. Jeffrey, I pray to God that they're going to show up and everybody's arrested. That'd make my day. I will eat crow and be like, I am so sorry I ever doubted you. I truly will. I will absolutely go on an apology tour. But I've gotten to the point where I'm cynical. I don't see it happening. We, the people, have got to just protect ourselves and get out of the jurisdiction. I know you did, I did, and you got to live your life outside the jurisdiction with all of your assets not titled in anything that the United States government can get their little mitts in. Goodbye.
State nationals. Yes, that's right.
Step out of the box. Yeah.
Now more than ever, I think that's and they've also stopped hassling you, right?
I don't get hassled anywhere. I travel in and out of the country and no issues whatsoever. None.
So there are options, answers, and solutions, and you're still hopeful about Trump, although not.
I'm going to say I'm cautiously optimistic. How about that?
Yeah.
Cautiously optimistic. So.
Well, please email me that template when you get it, and also your new film so we can promote it as well. And I thank you for coming on, and I also thank you for all your kindness and compassion over the years. You've been a real friend and guide.
Oh, Jeffrey, listen, we're all doing the best we can. Sometimes we're poking around in the dark and we bump into things, sharp objects, etc. So, and we can only do what we can do. The audience has got to be the ultimate deciders. Caveat emptor. Listen to what people are saying and fact check people and do your own research. And you got to make your own way. God gives all of us discernment. Sometimes, you and I see the same thing, but we take a little bit different route to get there, but we kind of know where we want to go, and people have to make the same decisions.
No, I mean, it's been a year or something since we've talked, and we're basically on the same track.
Same page. Same. Nothing's changed.
Cool. Yeah. Cool. Well, thank you so much for coming on. God
Thank you,
bless.
Jeffrey. Appreciate you. Have a great afternoon. God
All
bless
right.
you.
God
Bye.
bless. Okay, so there's the great Ann Vandersteel, personal, really good friend, with some really great insights. Just smart lady, really smart and really kind. And I've seen her give up her place on stage to folks just to talk. Uh, Really impressive. So the last thing I wanted to cover is it doesn't matter whether Trump's good or not. It doesn't matter whether Erica's good or not. It matters whether I'm good or not. That's the only person I can be responsible for. And then what I can do, with my kids, and make sure that, I'm showing them the best dad I can be. My dad said, your children will emulate your behavior, but it's at its lowest level. That was just one of the gems that he came out with before he passed. Uh, and so it doesn't matter whether Erica gets corrupted or not. It doesn't matter whether Trump is corrupted or not. It matters of what I got from Charlie's martyrdom and what I'm going to do. It doesn't even matter what you're going to do. I can't control you. I can advise you, just like I do with Team America. Team America, I don't order anybody. I have no authority to order anybody. I don't want to, but it's all up to us. And so that's where the Christic co-option of this failing and falling American empire can change everything. How do we know that? We saw it happen with Yeshua. Tucker referenced this. The movie Risen is a great example of that. And so, what I'm really pushing in the chaplaincy and I'm really pushing in Team America is to St. Martin our children. And to St. Martin our children. St. Martin was a Roman cavalryman. His father was an equite, a Roman cavalryman. That's a step right below senator. But when he's rich, but when he was growing up, he was playing with the slaves. There was a lot of slaves in his household, and the slaves were Christians, and the slaves' kids were Christians, and so he grew up playing with these Christian slave kids, and he really liked them, and they weren't like the corrupt, cynical, kids you see, the Peter Wood kids. They were nice kids, and so he became a Christian. But as he grew up, his dad said, "Hey, you're going to follow me into the Corps. You're going to be in the legions." And he said, "Yes, sir." And joined up, but became a Christian. And then at some point said, "Hey, I'm not even going to fight," because all early Christians were pacifists. And they're like, "Well, we're going to court martial." He goes, "No, I won't kill anybody, but I'll go on the front line." He was like an early version of Desmond Doss. And so that's what we need to do with our children. We need to make sure they are baptized and anointed with the great Holy Spirit, and they know their scripture, they know Christ, and then we need to inoculate them to the evil that's out there so they can infiltrate all of these institutions that won't go away, so that they can infiltrate from the bottom up. They can become FBI agents, they can become CIA case officers, and change these things from the inside, because there are people inside those agencies that are moral, like me. I think I was not exposed to a lot of stuff because they just knew I would never go along with it. And so I'm really emphasizing that is we really must St. Martin our children, and that's Operation St. Martin, and that's a multi-generational operation where you have to be an exemplar and train up your children in the way of Christ. And the story of St. Martin is he has a dream. He's on his horse and he sees a man that's cold, and he slits his cape, capella, and gives him half his cape, and it's turns out to be Jesus. And Yeshua says, "All the saints look what Martin did for me." And then when he wakes up, the cape is whole. And so that cape became a relic. It was carried into battle, and they won in battle. And from capella, you get chaplain, where you get chaplaincy. So that's where you get the tradition of chaplains deploying with military, with police, with hospitals, and we deploy electronically and also physically through christchaplaincy.com, christchaplaincy.com. Church comes to you. And that's also what, of course, Yeshua and the apostles did. They didn't spend a lot of time in the synagogues. They were out with the people. So that's what we are doing as well. And that's really the ultimate answer here as well. So there's lots of theories about how Charlie was killed. There's palm guns, there's microphone guns, there's drones, there's camera guns, there's exotic ammunition. Many of those things can be true, and it doesn't really matter which one is, because he is dead. And he was killed very publicly. And again, why now and why like that? And that was to make a statement. Every sniping is a psychological operation, except it's going to have, as Tucker has said, the opposite effect, just like when they killed Yeshua as well. So what really matters is what I do next. And then you're responsible for what you do next. That is really, in the end, all that matters. Do you just go on? Do I just go on like I was before? Or do I emulate Charlie, who is emulating Yeshua more than me? And, for my answer is, I'm going to emulate Charlie, who is emulating Yeshua even more than me. That's what I'm going to do. But again, that's what I'm going to encourage and lead Team America to do. That's what I'm going to encourage and lead my family to do, my HMACers, my dojo as well. And so I encourage you to have your own declarations. I'm not going to read my Substack again because I don't want to cry again. I encourage you to read my Substack. I encourage you to listen to Tuesday's show, especially the opening where I read the Substack. And then I encourage you to come up with your own declaration. But I will close with my new kids dojo code, Little Ninjas dojo code. This is a new thing. And I know some of my kids, Little Ninjas kids, parents listen to the show. So this is eventually, you've heard parts of this, me speak in the dojo, but you'll hear this the first time complete. Patience comes first. Politeness is second. Most quit, few stick. Discipline brings freedom. Consistency builds character. Perseverance beats talent. Skill is earned, not bought. Sweat builds self-esteem. You can only change yourself. When you change, they change. On your right is who you look up to. On your left is who you look out for. Failure teaches more than success. Never quitting when you fail is success. Fear is a reaction. Courage, a decision. When faith emanates, fear dissipates. Trust in God, yourself, and your teacher. And remember, freedom is never given. It is earned, fought for, won, and taken. So take it.